Hey, good people, look what I got for Christmas. My favorite tool in my arsenal of tools for pruning and gardening and whatnot. I got a new pair of Felco 2s. Yes, I have been using Felco 2s. Well, let me show you how long I've been using Felco 2s. I've been using Felcos for so long, I wore the handle off of this about 10 years ago. This is easily a 30-year-old pair of Felcos, and I love them. Love them. I almost don't need a replacement, but I'm excited. Let's talk about them. Felco is by far the finest pair of clippers I have ever used, and I have used many over the years. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite stories when I worked for a tree care company probably 35 years ago, our manager came in and he was just so excited. He had a new pair of clippers and he had bought them for I think $5 at a local garden center. It was part of a big box store. He was showing everybody on the crew, and I asked him if I could take a look at them. I took a look. They looked just like my Felcos, and I squeezed them and broke the handle. He hadn't had them for more than an hour, and the metal of the handle was so poor that it just broke. You're never going to find that happening with quality of steel and the care and manufacturing that goes into a product like the Felcos. So when I say unboxing, there's not a lot to unbox here. It comes in a very easy, it's actually easier to take out of the box than it was to unwrap the present. So let me talk about why Felco 2s. You know, Felco manufactures a number of different models or styles. I like the 2s because of the way they fit my hand. The end of the handle here just folds right into the muscle of my hand there, the grips. I have a fairly small hand, and I inherited that from my grandfather, but these end up being exactly what I need for gripping. These are a dipped handle, and so this is almost as close to being painted on as you can get, but it is rubberized. It's there for gripping, but I wear typically a pair of gloves that are themselves dipped, and so I have no problem gripping and holding on to my Felcos. I may bring in somebody who knows a thing or two more about the fabrication of steel and metal to talk about why these end up being such a superior product and why in all the years that I've been using my Felcos, I have never had a problem with the metal fatiguing or breaking in any way, shape, or form. And that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the quality of manufacturing, components that go into this to make this such a superior tool. But before I get to that, let me tell you a little bit about a few tips and tricks that I do with my Felcos so that they will really be an extension of my hand. One thing that I never do is when I'm making a cut, I never get into the material and then twist back and forth. Even with the best quality of steel, even with the best quality of manufacturing, you need to use the tool as it was intended. This isn't a screwdriver. This isn't for cutting heavy gauge metal. This isn't for grabbing hold of a branch and twisting that branch free. No, it's a cutting tool. But I just want to say that use the tool as it's intended, and it will last you forever. So the blade holds sharp and is very strong. As I said, you can see there is no flaw in this blade. I have used for decades now. It is time for a good cleaning. I haven't cleaned them since the season ended, but I find that I clean them throughout the season because I use them so frequently. One thing that's very important is holding that edge, holding a nice sharp edge as I go through the season. Shockingly, I very rarely have to sharpen my blade. as much as I use it. And secondly, I have never replaced this blade. They are available and it is advisable. But as I said, I've had these Felcos now for probably 35 years, and they've been performing just fabulous for me. Excited for a new pair because you can never have too many pairs of clippers, and I really do like the feel of the grip on here and having that back in my hand. And boy, that is that's actually, for us gardeners, that's a lovely sound. The way that this cutting blade passes past the anvil, that's this portion here, which actually has no sharpness to it to speak of. It's all the cutting blade that does the work here. But you can just hear that sliding past each other. And that is a beautiful sound. The wonderful thing about Felcos is that they do provide you with a little tool to do all of your disassembling and reassembling when it does come time to replace maybe a blade or a spring or any of the components. Everything except the handle cover is replaceable. And the guide that comes inside this illustrates quite well how you can go about disassembling it, reassembling it, and replacing any of those parts. So yeah, my hat's off to Felco. This is a fabulous product. And I don't know, maybe we will do a review on other models, but I am a diehard fan of the Felco 2s. They've never not been able to do what I need for them to do, right down to the fine little pruning of small twigs on some of the bonsai pruning that I do, or whether or not I'm actually getting into a pretty good sized piece, as long as it'll fit between the blade and the anvil, and it is not ridiculously hard wood. I'm able to do just fine with these. So that's a little bit about my new Felco 2s. I'm going to share with you a little bit. My guest this afternoon is actually going to be my father, who was in the metallurgy business for years, manufacturing and working with steels, and he has a far deeper understanding of metals than I do. And I'm going to let him explain a little bit about why these Felco 2s are so much better than the competition. As promised, this is my guest, my very own father, who got me into the gardening business because he was an avid hobby gardener himself. And I have a few questions to ask him because that wasn't what he was doing for his profession. Tell me a little bit about what your background is relative to metals, technology, and manufacturing.
Well, I was 40 years in what I call the metals industry, which is a broad spectrum of manufacturing, from things that are quite ordinary, but also in the aerospace defense industry, and took college classes in metallurgy to be able to address the needs that I was encountering. It's interesting, Jim asking me to speak to this piece of equipment and tool, which I'm happy to do. And it's quite obvious to me that the manufacturer has been scrupulous in employing the latest in technology, both in metallurgy, in the manufacturing of the blade. High carbon, keeps an edge, will stand up to the abuse and the strength that a person typically would put into pruning with this machine. And the casting itself, obviously, while it's lightweight, it's a superior aluminum alloy, or you would see that after the many years of his using it, there would have been a handle breakage or something like that, but it doesn't.
So I told him the story about my manager who brought one of the cheaper versions of clippers to work, and on the day he bought it, I squeezed it and broke it.
Yes, that's my point. Because to have a machine like this that is lightweight, but yet will stand up to that, where it's obvious that it is an alloy, aluminum alloy of superior strength, one that would be qualified for maybe the aerospace defense or the boating industry, where there is an aluminum called marine grade that is best for that industry. Then the fit of the component parts, it looks to me like there's a near medical technology taken in the degree of accuracy and thoroughness in the design. So it's quite impressive for him to hand that to me and say, what do you think of this? And that's how I feel about it.
So when you refer to it as an aluminum alloy, help me understand again what an alloy is.
An alloy is a mixture of more than one component to accomplish a product that will stand up to the rigors of what you are using it for. A typical aluminum, pure aluminum, minute you would squeeze this, there would be a break, I believe, in the handle, as you explained in the one
Sure.
that he had you test.
So what kinds of things do they mix with the aluminum to give it that strength?
Well, that's typically a trade secret, but it's hard to speak specifically as to what they would put into the alloy. A bronze, for example. There's a bronze in what is in the foundry industry. They will use a bronze that has an aluminum alloy, and they call it bronze aluminum. So it's difficult to say, but I'm sure it is a trade secret.
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll be seeing more from Dad, and he can share more insights, not just in metallurgy, but in some of his traditional garden practice. He's a pretty amazing rose curator, so we'll talk to him again. Thanks for popping in on my video today. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for following along. Stay tuned. We'll review some more fine garden tools as we're sitting here enjoying sub-freezing temperatures in the middle of winter.